All right, so let me screen share real quick. I'll be drawing for y'all. You're about to see some insane art. Uh, oh wait, you guys definitely can't see my screen right now, huh? There we go. Okay, nice. Okay, so basically, what I'm gonna be going over today is a bit of the. I'm recording right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So basically, I'm gonna be going over a bit of how the connection is gonna work in your project. So pretty much, we are gonna be black boxing some stuff for you guys, meaning that we have coded some stuff that you guys will be able to use that we it's kind of outside the scope of what our training was. So we're not going to make you guys code it yourself, but you can use our code. So I'm basically teaching y'all kind of how it works. But first of all, I want to go over how the structure of the connection is going to kind of work. So basically, uh, in this project, you guys are going to have a website, and then you are going to have your Raspberry Pi Pico. And these two systems are going to be communicating with each other in some form. So we have to have some way of getting messages from the website to the Pico, and then also from the Pico to the website. So in order to do this, we're going to use a thing called MQTT protocol. And so I'm going to kind of go a bit over a bit of how that connection works. So pretty much, MQTT uses these things called brokers, and basically a broker just is kind of like a middleman almost, right? So in our system, we have two connections to our broker. One is from the Pico, and one is from our website. And so pretty much the website uh, is going to send and receive messages from the broker or to and from the broker, as well as the Pico. The Pico is also going to send and receive messages to and from the broker. And the way that we're going to do this is by having a I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but we're going to have a node server that pretty much just communicates with our React website. So this is called Node. So we're gonna have a Node server. You guys don't have to fully understand, but I'm just kind of explaining how it goes. So these two are going to be communicating, the website and the Node server, and then the Node server is going to be connected to the broker, and the broker is going to be connected to the Pico. And this is going to kind of be the chain of getting from our website to the Pico, and then the Pico to the website. Okay. So is there any questions on just how this works? Like, do we just get the structure before I kind of move on to explaining how MQTT works?
Sorry, is which is the backend function if I'm saying that correctly?
Yeah, so pretty much like the node server is in this case what would be formally known as the backend. So the node server is going to be the backend of our website pretty much. And then the website is what would formerly be known as the front end. Uh, and so yeah, in terms of the website, this is what it would be, front end and back end. But I mean, you also could really just call everything kind of the back end other than the website if you wanted to. But formally, this is how it'd be. Is that what you asked?
Yeah, I just wanted to know like how like the changes will be made to the website.
Oh yeah. So do you just mean like how, like, because this website is just going to be a React website, right? So you're just going to be coding it like you normally would, but there's going to be some communication between your Node server and your React website, which I'll get into. And this is the code that I've written for you, along with like the node to the MQTT and the MQTT to the Pico. If that's what you're asking, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to know how the website will be launched, if that makes sense.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know why I went back. Oh yeah, basically the website would just be launched using our npm start with the React website. So you're gonna open pretty much a couple different terminals inside of your VS Code. So I'll show the actual example, but yeah. So pretty much you're gonna have the npm start for your React website is how you're gonna start the website, and then you're gonna have npm or node, and then whatever your file is for your server. Like if you wanted to name it server.js, this is how you'd start it. And then with the Pico, you just run the Pico. It is sorry, I think that's what you're asking. Might be wrong.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically these are all just going to work together. You have to start them individually. So there's going to be three things that you have to start. You have to start your Pico by just, running the code for it. And then you have to start your server by running node space server.js, whatever, and then npm start like we had for our normal React website. That's how you're gonna establish, or you're gonna start with that. And then once they're all running and the connection is established, then it should be like sufficient in order for them to communicate with each other. Okay. So next I'm gonna kind of break down how it works, how the connection is going to be established with the MQTT broker with this thing. So pretty much how an MQTT broker works, right, is we have the broker in the middle, and then you can have as many nodes as you want. We'll call them nodes. By nodes, I just mean things that are communicating with it, right? So we could have like, I'll do 3 different nodes right now. This is not related to like a node server necessarily. I'm just saying like the term node just to describe something that's communicating with the broker. So I'll just name these 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So pretty much how it works is if you want to send a message to the broker, then you would do something like you'd send a message that contains a topic, and then it contains the body of the message. Okay. So if it was a function, it would kind of just look something like publish, and then it would be a topic of your message, and then the message itself. So this would be going from the node into the broker.
Wait, am I muted?
No, you're not muted.
Sorry.
No, you're good, Dylan. Yeah, so like in our previous example, if I wanted to send a message from the MQTT or from the node server, this one, to the MQTT broker, which just contains some data, it's nothing crazy, then I could publish it, and it just has to have a topic and then the message. This is just kind of like the form that it uses. Okay, so like for example, if I wanted to send some message that, I don't know, if you click a button, then it sends a message to the MQTT broker. So how that would break down is the button gets clicked on your React website. All right, so it starts off here, and then when the button gets clicked, it triggers a function that says, "Hey, I want to send to my node server." This button gets clicked. So now the node server understands that. Now the node server understands a button has been clicked, so it sends a message to the MQTT broker with a topic of button, and then let's just say the message. So like the topic would be button, and then the message is W, let's say. So it's just saying the button W has been clicked. So in order to categorize this, we're just going to have its topic as button, and then the message as W, which contains like the actual specific data that we're talking about. Does this make sense to everyone? Okay, cool. So yeah, that's kind of how the different nodes would send things to the broker. Now you're wondering, how do we get things from the broker? This is going to be called subscribing. So let's say client three really wants to, or client three wants to know when a button has been pressed on another device, right? So I'm going to erase this, or I'll move this actually. I'll move this down here. So then let's say we want to start on device one, and device three is interested in when device one clicks a button. So device one clicks a button, it then triggers a function that says, hey, I want to publish the message with the topic of button. And then the message is W, like I said, or a key, I guess, but we'll just say button. In order for another node to receive this, it has to subscribe. So it would just subscribe to the topic button. Now, you usually do this, you usually subscribe right when you're starting up whatever it is. So like if this is our Pico, right? If number three is our Pico, just say Pico, then right when the Pico starts running its code, we're going to say, hey, I want to subscribe to button. So then whenever someone sends a message to the broker with the topic button, I get that message. If that makes sense. So another example is like, you know, if you wanted to get some reading from your Pico and then send it to your website, then you'd want your website, your node server, to be subscribed to the topic reading or something like that. And then it just gets fed every reading that comes through from the Pico. Or are we understanding how this connection works?
So you're saying number one, push the button, is publishing a button. The broker got it. He's the middleman. And then, but the subscriber wants to know why the button was pressed.
Yeah,
So,
like so like basically the subscriber wants to know, it's just saying every message that has the topic button, send me that message. That's all it's saying. So it's just saying like, I want to know, you know, whenever a button gets pressed, or you know, you can make any topic you want, but I'm just using this one as a specific one. Did I answer your question?
uh, yeah. And then the Pico gets involved with the subscribe. Is that what you were saying too?
Yeah. So the Pico is saying, the Pico is saying, I want to subscribe to the topic of button. So then, so I'll do it in the correct order
Oh,
actually.
okay. So the number three is another middleman for subscribing Pico.
So three is the Pico. Sorry, that's my fault. I should have just said
Okay,
Pico.
three is the Pico. Okay, okay.
So just an example, three is the Pico, right? So then we're gonna say step number one, we're subscribing, like right when the Pico boots up, it subscribes to the topic of button. So it's basically just saying to this broker, whenever it receives a message of the topic button, send it to me. That's just what it's saying. So then in another node, let's say, it publishes, so step two, our node server, for example, so this is our node server. That one publishes a message with the topic button. And then we're just going to say W. When this is published, so like let's say this is published, it's getting sent to the broker. The broker is then saying, okay, I just received this message with the topic button. I need to now send this message to all of my subscribers that are subscribing to button, right? So then it just says, oh, the Pico is subscribed to button. So now I'm going to go to the Pico. Now I'm sending that to the Pico automatically. The Pico didn't have to request anything after it subscribed, if that makes sense. So it's just saying, it's basically just telling the broker, whenever there's a message with the topic button, send it to me. That's all it's saying. Okay. So yeah, so then I'll give another example. Then if we just said step 3, our node server publishes a message with a topic, let's say, I don't know, score. I'm just thinking of anything random here, right? Like we're sending a score or something like that. And then the contents of the score is 3-0. If it sends this to the broker and then no one is subscribed to broker or to subscribe to score, then the broker just doesn't do anything with it because no one's subscribed. And so I just got a message, is button referring to like if a website user presses the W key? It definitely could be. I'm just giving an example. So like this stuff, I'm just trying to think of like real world situations where you'd want to send a message, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's not like you can do it however you want. That's what I'm saying. Like you can just think of a way that you'd want to get a specific type of data from one like system to another system. So like if we want to get it from our website to the Pico, and we are just saying we're going to send a control over to the Pico, some direction that the Pico has to listen to. The way that we do this is whenever that control is sent, we publish a message from our website that says control as the topic. Then in the message, you'd send what the actual control is. Now, the Pico should be subscribed to the topic of control. So then whenever the website sends a message with the topic control, it will just automatically get those controls, and you have to be able to handle them. Yeah. And I just got another question. Can the Pico subscribe to multiple things? Yes. So this is what's great. You can subscribe to whatever you want. So like if you have, let's say you're on your Pico, right? And you have 3 different types of data that you want to be sending to your website. The website can then subscribe to those 3 types of data, whatever you want to name them. So data 1, data 2, and data 3. Whenever the Pico publishes that data, the website will now automatically get this data because it's subscribed to data 1, data 2, and data 3. And then another thing, and the Pico does whatever based on the messages that it receives. See, this is where you guys come into it, okay? So I am doing all of the connection part. So I'm just making sure that, okay, we get from the Pico to the node server, or to the broker, to the node server, to your website, and then back the other way. You guys are the ones that are saying, okay, I've received this message. What do I do with it? You know? So like, like I said, if we get some, like if the Pico sends some data to our website, great, it sent this data, but now you have to say, okay, I received this data. What am I going to do with it? And that's what you guys are building in your software, if that makes sense. We just need a way to get it back and forth. So that's what I did. Any more questions about how this kind of works?
So for example, the website has the coding, somebody pressed a button, and then our Pico is saying, I programmed something. When that button is pushed, I want to know when that button is pushed so I can do something.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a specific button, let's say, right? It's just saying, I'm subscribing to the topic of button. So that just means that any message that is sent with a button, I want to know about it. So a way that you can think about this is by saying, okay, so we just sent this message because someone pressed a button. So I'm talking about step number 2. So first, the Pico subscribes to the topic button, and then second, we publish a message from our website that says the topic button, and then the message is W. So that's just our way of formatting it. Like, hey, I want the button, like the button I pressed is W. So that you'd have to find a way to kind of send that message, if that makes sense. Like you have to put in your code how you'd want to format it, right? But then let's say we had another one that says button, comma, S. So now we press the S button. This message is still also going to go to the Pico, but it's your guys' job to say what happens when those buttons are pressed. So if I press W, what code do I have to write on the Pico to handle the pressing of W? And then if I receive a message that says button, comma, S, what do I need to do when the button is S? That's what I want you guys to be thinking about. Okay, so do we have a way for the Pico to request a message or request a message from the website and waits for a response? So the way that I would do this is by saying, so this is where I want you guys to kind of like just think about the concept and think about different ways that you can apply it, right? I'll help you with this one, but if you wanted to request a message, right, then you could maybe send a message that has the topic of request, and then the message would be the contents of that request, and then your website does something based off of that, if you get what I'm saying. So like you got to just use this concept in order to make a request if you wanted to, you know. And another question, is the Pico the only subscriber that we're going to use during HaCK? So basically the Pico is going to be subscribing to whatever it wants to receive from the website, and then the website is going to be subscribing to whatever it wants to receive from the Pico, if that makes sense. So we're not going to have like multiple subscribers getting the same messages, but we're just going to have the Pico getting some messages from our website, and then the website getting some messages from our Pico. That's how it's going to work. Any other questions?
You have
Yes.
like a,
Oh, no, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matthew.
No, you can go. Oh, yeah, okay.
Do you have like a flow chart of more what you're saying?
Yeah, so I'm also going to go through a coding example. Maybe that'll
Okay.
kind of help, but I can draw something up after this too
All
to
right. Cool.
like, yeah, to try to help you out.
All right.
All right, then,
yeah.
go ahead.
So I just wanted to kind of clarify. So what we are doing is just like the publish and the subscribe, and you're setting up like all the connections and stuff.
Yes, exactly. So you guys will have to use the publish function and the subscribe function or whatever, but it's already done. If that makes sense. But you guys just have to say, okay, now I've received the message. What do I need to do with it? Or in what scenario would I publish a message? That's what I want you to be thinking about.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, I'm actually just going to talk about, I'm going to go back to my computer and I'm going to talk about setting up your own MQTT broker. I'll just briefly go over this because this is what we're going to use during HaCK. So I think it's a good idea to just kind of show you guys now. Okay. Okay, I have another question. Does your code enable the Pico to send the message to the broker and then to the website? So, does your code enable Pico to send the message to the broker and then to the website? So that's how every message is formatted. So everything just goes to the broker, and then the broker just says, hey, who's subscribed to this type of message? Now the broker, will automatically just send it out. So you're not like, you got to think about it like I'm just sending something to the broker, and then the broker does its work, and then you're also just saying, like for example, if I'm the website, I'm just saying, broker, I'm sending you messages, you do whatever you need to do with it, and then also saying, hey broker, whenever you get a message of this topic, send it to me. And just think about it, every node is just doing that. So then the broker will just send it to the correct ones because you've set it up like that. Does that make sense?
I I think I kind of get what you're saying. So for example, um, I'm say I'm an astronaut and I have a backpack that reads temperature, reads oxygen, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the backpack says I'm sending you the signals of oxygen. These are my oxygen levels. But then I have a spike of oxygen, and then I decide what to do with it. We decide what's gonna happen. What we end up doing? Something similar to that, I guess, in the context, maybe.
Yeah. So it's like, so I like the line of thinking about like the whole like, you know, this backpack is sending you readings, right? So then what you got to think about is like how the backpack, or like what readings the backpack is going to send, and then who is going to listen to those readings.
Yeah. So say for example, mission control is getting this. Hey, you have a spike of this. Do this.
Exactly. So it's like, it's basically just saying, you know, like in your example, the backpack is getting all these readings, right? And then it's sending them straight to mission control. So then mission control has to say to you, because you're interested in obviously in the oxygen levels, you know, whatever the temperature, right? You're interested in all these readings. So mission control knows you're interested in those readings. So it's going to send you updates on that, on those readings, right? So then, and then vice versa. If you're like, oh, I want you to, I don't know, like change the I don't know, change the temperature inside the backpack, or you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you send that to mission control, and then mission control does it for you, because the
Okay.
backpack is saying, hey, I want to know if I'm receiving any instructions. That's kind of how it's going. You're just going
Got
through a
it.
middleman every time.
So the broker is mission control, and then the
Exactly.
subscriber is the Pico, which is probably the guys talking, asking for the what we want to see, what we want to read,
See, that's the
or want
thing.
to or tell,
That's
or
the
say.
thing. In this scenario where we're sending data back and forth between a website and the Pico, both of them are going to be the publishers and the subscribers, because we're saying,
Oh, okay.
I want to listen to some messages, but I want to listen to different messages than you. You know, so we both subscribe to our own things that we want to listen to, but then we also have different data that we need to send to each other. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to publish this reading if I'm the Pico, and then on the website, you're saying, hey, I'm going to send this control, you know, like things like that. So it's just, you have to design what you're going to listen to and what you're going to send on the website, and then you have to do the same thing on the Pico itself.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
so the hardware can know what to do.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So then you have to decide, you have to say, okay, you know, like it's like you're making the code for a message that's sent to the backpack, right? So you're like, you know, you've received this message, like you're the backpack, you've received this message, and you're saying, okay, I need to like change my internal temperature. It's like you'd be writing the code to say, okay, I received this message, what do I do now? That's what you guys are going to be writing.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so then now I'm going to kind of go on to this website called Hive MQ. So pretty much this is going to be where your oh wait, actually, hold on one sec. I'm not going to share the screen yet. Let me just check something real quick. But this website Hive MQ is basically just your MQTT broker for free. So you're going to be using this URL for everything in terms of I want to send it to this. Okay, yeah, never mind. We're all good. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, can you guys see this thing that says your clusters? Okay, cool. So pretty much, I'm gonna go open a new thing of Hive MQ, but this is just gonna be where you are, like where your MQTT broker is, where you're gonna get it from. So you got to log in to your MQTT account. So like I just logged in, so it did it for me. But basically, you're going to make an Hive MQ account, and then you can create a serverless MQTT broker. I forget what the exact process is, but I'm guessing you're just going to clusters, and then you can just say create new cluster. And when it says cluster, it's basically just talking about your broker. So try not to get too caught up in that. But this is going to be what your like the MQ broker, the MQTT broker that we're going to be using, and then we're going to be doing some example code with it, and I'll be showing you guys that right now. But I just want to give you guys this website because it's what you guys are going to be using, and everybody is going to make their own, or like each team is going to make their own broker to send information through. So yeah, if we have more questions, we can kind of get to it later, but I just wanted to introduce this. So yeah, Hive MQ is going to be the website that we're using, and then you're going to create a new cluster. I think if I do create a new cluster, and then you just go to create serverless cluster, this is exactly what you want. So yeah, I'm just going to my clusters, and then you just do create new cluster, and then it just says create serverless cluster, and that's just what you're going to make. And yeah, so next up, I'm just going to show you guys some example code. So first of all, I have made a GitHub with some example code for you guys. So I can just go ahead and put that in the chat. Oops. Now I lost where the Zoom meeting is. Great. Oh, wait, there we go. Okay, yeah. So I'll put this link in the chat for you guys. And yeah, this is just going to have some example code and one of the libraries, and then the README is kind of like the explanation for it. So I want you guys to also figure this out, but I'm going to go through it in some of my examples. I'm pretty much going to go through this whole code right here. I haven't included the node server just because it has some kind of project specific information, I'll say. So I didn't include that one, but I will be including it once we reveal it. And you guys will be able to literally just take the node file that I give you guys and then just put it in your project, and it should be good to go. I tested it on, like, I made a new project and I just tested it on that project and it worked fine. So you guys just let me know, obviously, if it works for you when that happens, but we're not there yet. So yeah, pretty much I'm going to go through a couple examples. So first of all, we have to do it on our Pi. So there's going to be a couple things that we need to do in order to connect. First of all, I've made this connections.py file, and this is basically just containing the functions to connect to your MQTT broker, and then to connect to the internet, because that's going to be the two things that you need to do. So because of this, I have from connections import connect_MQTT and connect_internet. So then, yeah, that's what we're going to be using. And then also, just for privacy and something that you guys should do, I have made this file called constants.py. And the constants.py pretty much just holds a number of different variables, like, constants that I'm going to have. So like the SSID is my Wi-Fi, the MQTT server, it should be broker, but I named it server. So this just has the link to my MQTT broker, and then an MQTT user and an MQTT password, and we'll get more into this. But I wanted to kind of run through how this code works. So first of all, if we look in this main function, we're doing a connect internet, and then I'm just saying SSID, and because I'm at a hotel right now, I don't have a password. So yeah, we're just using the SSID. But if you have a password, you'd put your password in this field, and there's some more instructions on the README in the GitHub, but this is just kind of how it is. So you just do connect internet, and then the Wi-Fi network name, which is the same thing as SSID, and the password. And then with this connect MQTT function, basically this function returns a client. So think of it as it's returning a node almost, like we were going over in the examples before. And so in this, you just have to include your MQTT server URL, which if I go back, it should just be, yeah, so like this is mine, for example. Don't use this one, but this is mine. So you just include this URL in that in this function, and then the MQTT user and the MQTT password. These are basically just going to be things that you set up in your broker, and these are to identify specific nodes that are talking to the MQTT broker. So in this example, my MQTT user is just called PicoW, and then MQTT password, you just make up a random password for it. But it's like, and I'll show you guys how to do this in MQTT or HiveMQ. But pretty much you go to access management, and then it says credentials. So this is just saying, so I have two things on my MQTT broker. The first one is the PicoW, or the second one is the PicoW, which I was just talking about. So this is the username, and this is basically just saying that I've created a credential with the username of, what I put PicoW, and then you just give it some random password, doesn't really matter, and then you give it the permission to do something. So you can either say it can subscribe only, like we were talking about earlier, it can publish only, or it can publish and subscribe. And for the node server and the PicoW, we want them both to be publishing and subscribing, because they want to be able to send information and receive information. So that would be why they both need to publish and subscribe. Does this kind of make sense, like what the users are for in the MQTT broker? Is it confusing? All right, well, no one said anything, so we'll move on. But yeah, basically you're just gonna have to do this for each of your devices, I guess I'll say. So like for me, I did for the node server because it's talking to the broker, and our PicoW because it's also talking to the broker. Yeah. So once we've connected, it returns a client, which is basically just, if you think about it as like the node that you can subscribe and publish for. So pretty much, as you guys can see, this is right at the beginning of our code. So we've just connected to the internet. We've formed a client which can then do our subscribing and our publishing for us. So then right at the start, we're just going to say, I want to subscribe to my topic. And then I'm going to publish something that says the topic is called my topic and the message is called message. Now, what do we think is going to happen if I have just subscribed to my topic and then I send a message with the topic that is my topic? What do you guys think is going to happen? Exactly, yes. So the client, which in this case we just named it that, but it's the Pico, because we're on the Pico right now. It's going to receive the same message we just sent, because we sent it to the broker and it has the topic of my topic, and then the broker receives it and it says, okay, who's subscribed to my topic? The only one subscribed to my topic right now is the Pico itself, So we're just going to send that message back to you. So that's just kind of an example of like just kind of understanding how the subscribing and the publishing works. And then we also have to mention briefly the set callback function. This is going to be really important. So this is basically just saying when we receive the callback is just saying when we receive a message, when we receive message, what do we do with it? All right. So these like this callback function is going to be called every time that we get a message that we're subscribed to. Like, you know what I mean? So like you'll only receive messages that you're subscribed to. So the callback is just doing it's just saying what do we do when we received a message, right? So it's named CB and then topic, comma message, because that's just that's what would be the contents of the message, and then yeah, so it's just handling it. So can anyone? So yeah, I just got another question. So that means the Pico both sends and receives the message. Exactly. So when it subscribes, it's saying, I want to receive every single message that has the topic, my topic. Then right after that, we ourselves, the Pico, we publish a message which has the topic, my topic, and the message that just says message. So then we will just receive this message. Obviously, most of the time, you're not going to be using MQTT for this purpose, but it's a really good way to kind of test that. First of all, I'm receiving a message from the MQTT broker and also that I'm sending a message. So I use it a lot when I was testing this stuff to make sure that it all works. And it really does kind of help you out and understand like, oh, my message is getting sent. This isn't working, that type of thing. So now we can look at it and just say, okay, so we've published this message, and then, so this is all done before our while loop. Now, the reason we have a while loop is because we want to be constantly checking for messages. So this is just saying the client is going to check the message at the beginning of the while loop, and then it's going to sleep for 1 second. And then after that, it's just going to loop back again. So it's basically going to be checking for messages every single second. And if there's like 4 messages that it receives in that time period, it will process all 4 of those messages, if that makes sense. So this check message basically just says, have we received a message? If we have, call the callback function. And then the callback function is what handles it. So this is what you guys are going to be designing. You know what I mean? So like, if you receive a message that has a control, right? Then you're going to say, if topic equals control, do something, or like, if topic equals control, then do something based on the message, like that type of thing. So that's what you guys are going to be implementing. So if I run this code, we should see a couple things. So first of all, we want to make sure that we're connected to Wi-Fi. Second of all, we want to make sure we're connected to the MQTT broker. And then third of all, we want to have this callback function actually print message from my topic because we've just received a message from my topic. So if I run this code, I'm connected to my Pico, by the way. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm going to run it. It says connected on 10.67.55.41. That's just the IP address for our website. And then it says connected to MQTT. This is a confirmation message that we did connect to the broker. And now it says message from my topic because we subscribed to my topic. So we're saying, hey, give me every single message that has this topic. Then we sent a message that has my topic as this topic. I know I'm saying topic so many times. Goddamn. But we've just sent this message that says my topic. And then because we are subscribed to it, we get the message. And then when we get the message, the callback function is called. And then we just handle it however we want to. So I just said, if the topic is this, then we just say message from my topic, that type of thing. Does this make sense to everyone? I'm happy to go over it in more depth.
So quick question. So
Yeah.
Does check message so check message, what is check message doing? Is it just called the callback function every time it's executed?
Yeah, so basically check message is just saying, has the broker sent me a message since I last checked? That's all it's saying. So then it's
when it's true, it's gonna call callback. Is that what it is?
Wait, sorry, what's up?
So every time you check message, if it receives a message, it's gonna call callback function. Is that what it is?
Yes, exactly. So that's why you have to set your callback function. And then we just did it as CB. You can name it whatever you want, but we just named it CB. And then because we received a message, then it calls the callback function with that message. If that makes sense.
Then why does your output is only one line? Isn't it supposed to be outputting all the time?
No, because once it receives a message, it just ticks it off. So it just receives it time. You know what I mean? So that's why it has to check for it.
So if it's true, so it doesn't just go again anymore, right?
Like the callback function doesn't keep going. Is that what you're saying?
No, because that's within the while loop, right?
Oh, okay. I get what you mean. So pretty much how it goes is first. So let's say we just entered our while loop. We've already, we just enter our while loop, right? So we're just going to check for a message. If there is a message that has been sent, then we call our callback function immediately, right? Then the callback function does whatever it wants, and then we sleep for 1 second. So then it just basically says, now we're going to check. So then we exit, or we finish the loop, and then so we have to go back to the top again because it's a while loop, a never-ending while loop. So then we're going to check a message again. But since we already handled the previous message, there's not going to be any messages it has to handle. So it's not going to call the callback function. It only calls the callback function if we have a new message that the broker just sent us.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I just got another question. What's the point of message in publish my topic, comma, message, if you chose to print something else? Now, this is merely just an example. So if you guys can see, I have this thing commented out up here. So if I wanted to, I could just print out the message for every single one, but that's just probably not that's just probably not likely for what we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and run this code again. So I'm going to run the current script. And then so connect to the Wi-Fi, then it should connect to the MQTT broker. And then now it just printed out the topic is my topic and the message is message. So you can use the message for a lot of things. So I'll say one specific example, right? Going back to data and data readings. So how you use it is you'd say the topic is called data, and then the message contains the reading that you got for that data, right? So then every time that you call this callback function, it can maybe print the value of your data, display the value of your data. That's the kind of the point of having the topic and the message. It's literally just saying because it's helping you to know what to do with the message you just received. Because if we didn't have any topics, then it would be much harder to kind of decipher this is a temperature reading, or if this is another reading or something like that. Are we able to publish and receive objects or only strings? I believe it's only strings, but I'm not exactly sure. So how it actually gets processed is if you see we have this B my topic, it gets into byte objects, I think, and I don't even want to get into all, but I just say stick to strings if you can. It'd make it the most simple. That's what I'd say. Because honestly, I forget because I've been using strings the whole time. Okay, so does everyone have a decent enough understanding about how this code kind of works, just on the Pico end? I try it on this code? Yeah, I guess why not? So let's see. I guess I'll just do by objects. Do you mean like a class object, or like can I do an integer? All right. Just for you, I'll do a class. Okay. Oops. Class car. Okay. Okay, let's just see. Now, I guess. Okay. And then if we just say now, I don't know what you want to do with this. Let me see. I have a feeling it's not going to work, but I don't know. We'll test it out. Okay. Oh, it's taking a little bit. Okay, yeah. So it looks like it just has to have some sort of length. That's what the error is saying, at least. So it looks like you can't do that. But it was a good question. It's always good to like play with stuff and mess around a little bit. So I like the curiosity. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the front end code. So, sorry, it's like super dark here. Let me turn on the light. Good. We're just going to sit in the dark. So now we're going on to the front end code. So like this is the React code. So pretty much the way that it's going to connect to our node server is through a thing called a socket. So in order to demonstrate the socket, I'm going to go back to my iPad real quick, just to kind of draw it out, but then I'll come back to the code and explain it. So just basically know that we're in a socket. We're in a socket connection with the node server because they're both on our device. So we can just use a socket. So that's why we're using I don't know if you guys can see, where it says right here, the socket equals HTTP//localhost. And then we're doing on the port 8000. So this is just because we told our node server in this index.js. I don't know if you guys can see over here. I'm not showing you because it has private info, but that one pretty much is just running on localhost port 8000. So now we've just created a socket, which creates a constant connection between the React server or the React site and then the node server. But I'll show you guys on my iPad real quick, just kind of how the socket works. And then, sorry, I'll try to get through this as quick as possible. Okay. Okay, cool. So now I just want to go through and kind of explain the connection between our React server or sorry, I keep saying server, our React site and the Node server. And this is done, oh, this is horrible. This is done using a thing called a socket. So this is a socket right here. Pretty much how a socket works is it opens up a never-ending, or not never-ending, but it opens up a constant connection between two nodes, we'll just say. So since these are on the same device, it's really easy to use sockets on the same device because they just kind of talk from port to port. We don't have to get into what that means, but all it's just saying is that if we want to send a message to the node server, we're going to emit a message. So we're going to do like a thing called socket.emit, which just sends a message through the socket over to our node server. And this is all you got to know. So it's really pretty simple on the, and then also, you know, like, for example, if you want to do socket.emit on the other side, then you just do socket.emit and it'd send a message to the React site. So it's definitely a much simpler concept than the MQTT is, but just the implementation is kind of all funky in terms of handling it. So yeah, pretty much. Okay, so we've established kind of how the socket works. Then I'll go into the code and show you guys how it would work with the MQTT, or I guess I can explain it here. So how it's going to work with the MQTT broker is we are going to have the MQTT broker that is only connected to our node server just because of the capabilities that a node server has versus just a React front end site. You know, it's why you have your back end and your front end. So this is our MQTT. So how this is going to work is if we want to send something to the MQTT broker from our website, we are going to do something on our website, right? So like I said, pressing a button. So we're going to say socket.emit, and then it's just going to be like I guess you could just do like, you know, button W like we've been doing. And this socket.emit, all it does is just send this message right here. So the node server doesn't really know anything about like topics and all that. It's just getting a message that just says button, comma, W. But then what your node server receives is this message, right? So then now it's saying, oh, we've received button, comma, W. And the way that you write your node server is just say, oh, if I receive a message from the React server, then I'm just going to send it as a topic and a message to our broker. So right when it receives the message button, comma, W, then we form a new message, which we're going to publish, which has the topic button and the message W. And then that goes to the MQTT broker. And then you guys can kind of assume vice versa. On the node server, that's where we're going to be doing our subscribing to receive messages. So then when a message comes in, we get it, and then we just say, so this is the message right here. And then we just do socket.emit topic message. Sorry, this is so ugly, but we're going to make it work. And then on this socket.emit, then it sends it to the React site. And then the React site will have something for handling an admitted or a message that it received through the socket. So that's what I'm going to go through in my code on my computer. Does anyone have any questions about the concept of sending through a socket first and then the node server sends it or receives from the MQTT broker. Yes, exactly. So the I know there's a couple middlemen in this story, but so another person said, so kind of like a middleman, and that's exactly what it is between the MQTT broker, which is already a middleman, and the React website, because the React website just doesn't have the capabilities to set up a connection like that. So we use the node server to do like the dirty work, like the behind the scenes things. So that's how you use, or like that's why we have to use a node server. Otherwise, obviously, we just go straight from our React website to the MQTT broker, but it just doesn't have those capabilities. So we're just doing it with a node server. Any questions about the confusion with the socket, or how the how the messages go from the React site through the node server to the MQTT broker and vice versa? Are you going to use a framework for the server? So I just already made this server. It's just using Node.js. There's no, I mean, it uses sockets. I don't think there's a framework. I kind of did it from scratch. But I guess the only thing is I have like topics for the messages for you guys that I've already made. So I guess we can kind of see if you guys want to just use the topics that I give you, because that's all you'll need, or if you just want to design it your own way, which, I mean, by all means, go for it. But let's just say there's information that needs to be sent with your guys' HaCK project, and the topics that I have made for you guys does everything. And once I release the server, the node server, you guys will have that information, and it'll be, I guess, easier to decide how you're going to set it up. Sorry, I'm explaining this so badly, but it's all right. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my React code real quick. Oh, okay. Just to make sure, does the code you showed us before exist on the MQTT broker or the Pico? The code I showed you guys before, it exists on the Pico. Just make sure we understand, we don't write any code on the MQTT broker. All right. So all you do, like the MQTT broker is just set up externally through the HiveMQ site that I was showing you guys. All that you need to do involving the broker is just get its URL and make, users. So like you'll make a user for your Pico and a user for your node server. So there's no, like, you're not actually writing code on the MQTT broker. It already has all the technology it needs. You're just writing code on the things that are going to communicate with it. So in this case, the node server and which I've done, and then the Pico, which is what I showed previously. And this example code that I'm showing you guys will have it all. Like I'm saying, it's examples. So you can't just obviously copy and paste what I'm doing, because it's not going to achieve the goal you want. You got to make some tweaks to it, but they are examples of how everything works. And then obviously I'll be there to answer any questions on like the setup, because I really don't want you guys to get stuck on the connection issues. I want you guys to more focus on handling it. So I'll obviously be there to like help you guys through it, if that makes sense. So yeah. Just gonna share my screen again real quick. Okay, So this that I'm showing you guys is just a really small React, or like, yeah, it's a really small React snippet of how you would interact using a socket. So first of all, you have to open the socket, and this is not going to change. So the server that I'm making for you guys is on port 8000. So I want you guys to use excuse me. I want you guys to use like this syntax for creating the socket. And this data that I've made with using a use state, that one is just complete. This is all arbitrary. It's completely arbitrary. I just wanted to show you guys how it works using a socket. So if I want to say, create the connection, that's what this top one does. If I wanted to listen for something, then you use the socket dot on. So it's just saying on an example topic and then some data, then we set the data to be this data. Oops, this should be data, but it's whatever. So then, yeah, so like basically we're just saying socket dot on, and then when we receive a message of example topic, then the second parameter is data. We are going to set the data to be whatever message you got, right? So then now if you wanted to say, like, send a message, you'd have to, I just made a function in order to do this. So I have an example send, and then the parameter is a message. And then you just emit a message with the first parameter being example topic, and the second message, or the second parameter, being a message. Sorry, I explained this really poorly, but yeah, like this is just basically the on is just saying like, oh, when you receive a message with the topic example topic, that's just what through the socket, that's what the socket dot on does. So the first parameter is just the topic that you're talking about, and then this example send, or I guess the emit, is just sending a message through the socket to the other thing that it's connected to. So this is how you send a message through the socket. All right, any questions on this implementation? Sorry, I know it's confusing.
So the use effect is not gonna rerun, right? If data is changed.
No. So that's why you have the it's the socket dot on. It's send, like, it's just setting what you do when you've received. It's kind of like the callback function almost of the Pico. So it's just saying when we receive a message of this topic, do this. If that makes sense. So it's like,
So it's kind of like set intervals. It's not like dependent on re-render.
yeah. It's just literally just saying like, whenever you receive a message, like, so we're going to receive a bunch of messages throughout, the duration of this website that have the topic example topic. And it's just saying when you receive this message, then do this. That's all the on is saying. Like, you just say it one time, and then it'll just do this function, the function that you give it. It'll do it every time it receives a message of that topic.
So thank you.
Yeah. And then, it's kind of like, if you guys remember with the keyboard and using the use effect in order to use a keyboard, and then you have to add event listeners and remove event listeners. It's kind of like that with the use effect, where it's like the socket dot on is like an event listener. So it's just saying whenever we get a message of example topic, do this. So that's like that's what we do when we just receive this topic. And then in the return statement, you just say socket.off example topic. And that's just saying like, oh, we're unsubscribing from example topic pretty much. That's how I'd put it. And then this example send is just another function that just says, oh, we're going to send a message through the socket to our node server. And then when the node server receives the message, then it does something else. So yeah, you guys won't be implementing the node server, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but you do have to know how to send a message to your node server and how to receive a message from your node server. And this is just how you do it. So yeah, I think that's, yeah. Any questions on how you'd receive or send a message to or from your node server? Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make like a cleaned up document on kind of how the whole flow of things works, right? And then like I'll try to make a little flow chart, and then I'll also try to publish a more specific and helpful README on my GitHub. And then when we announce the project, then I'll upload the node server that you guys can use, and you'll literally just basically you'll stick this entire backend folder, which is also on the it's on the GitHub. You'll pretty much just stick this entire backend folder inside of your project. That's what I'll say. So, you can use the code from front end and Pico, definitely, but I'd say, honestly, you guys could just pull this repository to start, or clone this repository to start if you wanted, because the backend is going to be fully implemented, and then the front end you should have to communicate with the backend, and then the Pico you should have to communicate with the broker, and that's pretty much it in terms of connections wise. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Like I said, I don't want to like have you guys held up just on the connection part. So yeah, if there's no further questions, then that's all I got for today. And not sure, we might be handing it off to someone else. I forget if someone's going. I don't know. All right. Well, if we got no questions, then I'm gonna stop sharing the screen and stop the recording.